Welcome back to my TV program, everybody. I am Brian Lee Durfee, author of The Forgetting Moon and The Blackest Heart, both books published by Simon & Schuster's Saga Press. Today I'm going to be reviewing Taggart by Louis L'Amour, one of his great old westerns written in 1959. Now, before we get to the book review, let's talk about the cover, because I love cover illustration and I love graphic design. And this book has a dynamite cover illustration. It's one of my favorites of my Louis L'Amour collection. I don't know who the artist is. I tried to research it. I just couldn't figure it out. But it's got this guy here, this cowboy. He's on a cliff. I don't know if you can see it, but there's some other cowboys back here in the cavern with him. He's got some gold scattered around his rifle. And down here, way down in the valley, are some Apaches that are searching for him. It's just a dynamic painting. I love the red rock cliff. I love the whole scene. I just love it. I love his bandana, his shirt, his leather riding gear. What do you call those? Chaps? I don't know. Anyway, so the cover's just dope. Anyway, what is Taggart about? I loved this book. I hadn't read this book in a long time. In fact, I'm going to read the very first sentence to you because it actually plays a part in my own novel, Forgetting Moon. So, and I read this sentence when I was a kid, and it always stuck with me. And I put a similar themed sentence in The Forgetting Moon, and I knew that when I put it in The Forgetting Moon that I had pulled it from a Louis L'Amour novel. I just couldn't remember which Louis L'Amour novel or where it would be found in a Louis L'Amour novel until I picked this book up the other day to read. And it was the very first sentence. And let me read it to you, then I'll explain what happened. So, Adam Stark was 3 months out of Tucson when he found his first color. It appeared as a few scattered flakes of gold, dry panned from a base of an alluvial fan. Okay. So, a lot of times when these old cowboys were out looking for gold, they wouldn't call it gold, they'd just call it color. And Louis L'Amour has used that phrase several times in his books. And when there's a gold mining panning, there's a gold panning scene early on in my book, Forgetting Moon, and I used the same sort of, I talked about them searching for color. And I was delighted to find, because I knew I'd pulled that phrase from a Louis L'Amour book somewhere. And I was just excited to finally stumble across one of those instances. Anyway, let's talk about it. Adam Stark. He's out gold panning. We start with him out gold panning. He's a good dude. He spends half of his day gold panning and the other half of the day hunting for food. He's got his wife Consuela. They are living out in the deserts near Tucson, and in the 1800s, this is a very bleak place. A lot of Apache Indians, and he's just very meticulously careful about how he travels through the landscape. Before he even makes a move down a ridge line, he will spend 15-20 minutes just scanning everything that's going on in the valley to just make sure that there's no outlaws or Apaches or anything. And then he'll move down the valley and up to the next ridge and do the same thing. In fact, every single character in this book takes an extreme amount of caution as they move through the deserts. And I love the way that Louis L'Amour just depicts this harsh, unforgiving environment of just the heat of the desert, the dangers that are in the desert, whether they're rattlesnakes, coyotes, mountain lions, Apache Indians, or just other people that don't mean you well, and you just have to move so carefully. And I've been in the deserts, and I've never felt unsafe, but I felt actual anxiety following these characters around as they maneuvered through this wasteland, this old West wasteland. But anyway, that's Adam Stark. He's got his wife with him, Consuela, and she does not have any respect for him. Well, he's got two women with him. Consuela is at the camp, and also his sister Miriam is at the camp. Now, Consuela married Adam for whatever reason, but she does not respect him. She would have rather married this dude back in town who was more of like a bully, more of a badass, more of a bad boy kind of, and she was more into that guy, and she would often consider Adam always giving her gifts and always telling her he loved her and doing things for her, as he was like really simping for her, and she really didn't respect him for that. She wanted the bad boy. In fact, she would oftentimes pit Adam against the bad boy gunslinger, and to see if they would fight, just to see if Adam had any sort of cojones at all. But anyway, he didn't in any way. But the bad boy clearly didn't want Consuela. He didn't want her. So she had to go with Adam, but she's very bitter. And she often talks to Miriam, Adam's sister, about her bitterness, about what a weak, Adam's a weak dude. And her sister is like, no, Adam's a good man. You don't understand. Adam has taken care of you. He's a tough man. He's a hardworking man. He goes out and he searches for gold. He hunts for us. He provides for us. He is a good man. The fact that he's a stronger man for not having fought the bad boy that you were interested in. And Consuela wants no part of it. No, because she wants Adam to take her to San Francisco and give her a life of luxury. But, clearly they're in the middle of the Arizona desert, and that's impractical. Anyway, in comes Swante Taggart, our main guy. Doesn't Louis L'Amour just have... I've just always thought that Louis L'Amour had a gift for coming up with just spectacular names. Character names that were dope. And Swante Taggart is one of my favorites. Now, Swante Taggart's this guy, and he's traveling through the desert too, and he is being followed by a bounty hunter. The bounty hunter is Pete Scheuer, and they've got a history behind them, between them, and anyway, they're both out in the deserts, and again, just the way they travel through the desert, the caution that not only Swante Taggart uses, but also the bounty hunter. Just the caution they use as they maneuver through the desert, one being chased and one being the chaser. Well, anyway, Swante Taggart stumbles into the camp where Adam Stark and his two women are, Consuela, his wife, and Miriam, his sister. And of course, he falls in love with Miriam, the sister. Not only that, but there's a lot of mysteries, because Adam Stark, the simp, the so-called simp, isn't really kind of who he says he is. And as they're wandering through this, I wanted to read one passage, page 44, as Miriam is looking out over the desert, and this is just beautiful. If you've ever been to the desert, you will know what I'm talking about here. So, talking about the desert landscape, there is no other night that has the stillness and the beauty of the desert night. The sea, when it is quiet, comes closest to that stillness. That is not stillness, but the sea is always alive. The Arctic, too, has its own beauty, but the desert is still with a curious, alert stillness, a sense of listening, of poised awareness. Standing alone in the desert at night, one feels that all about their surroundings is listening, and alertness for movement, for life, for change. The weirdly shaped figures of stone eroded by the years, the serrated ridges, the white stillness of the playas, the challenging fingers of the Sahara, these are there, and are clustered canes of the Kakato. And the desert is always, by day or night, but especially by night, a place of mystery. And that's the thing, is there's a lot of mystery in this book. This is one of the more plot-laden heavy novels, because Adam Stark, our simp, isn't all he claims to be. He's actually found, and we learn this at the beginning, he's actually found a big cache of gold. And so he knows that things are about to change. Not only that, but when the bounty hunter and Taggart come in to their camp, they know some secrets about our simp Adam. And maybe or maybe not, he's more of a badass than he's been letting on. And that was kind of cool because we get some kind of flashback scenes of what happened between him, between Adam, our simp, and the bad boy that Consuela really wanted. And we get some of that kind of stuff, and we're like, okay, maybe Adam isn't the weak ass motherfucker that his wife thinks he is. And it's kind of cool. It's just kind of cool that way. And I love the way that Louis L'Amour described the mystery of that desert in the nighttime, because if you've ever been out in the desert at night, you know that there's magic and mystery in the just in the landscape. You can feel it, and he's right. There's no other place in the world like the southwestern deserts at night. And that's just kind of a metaphor for who this character Adam Stark is. One of my favorite characters, even though the book is called Taggart, and it's kind of about Taggart being a badass. It's about other men like Adam Stark who seem like maybe they're weak, but in the end, were they really? Or were they the most baddest ass in the story? Taggart is a great book. Absolute great book. It was one of my favorite Louis L'Amours. I've got to give this a 10 out of 10. It is one of the tops. Absolutely one of the tops.